going to have a panel now about a very important topic in this era of COVID-19 concern, which is cashless casinos and just the general topic of cashless payments. And we have a great panel of participants joining us today, both here on stage as well as virtually. So we've got Matt Dickson, who's the CEO and co-founder of BitBoss, Ed Andrews, CEO of Resorts Digital Gaming, and Stephen Christoph, who's the CEO of SCCG Management. Hello, people here in studio and then on screen as well. I'm going to ask you just quickly to introduce yourselves, and then we'll get started. Let's start with our remote speaker. Hello.
Hello, nice to join you. Hi, Matt. It's been a while. Good to see you. Steve Crystal, I'm based in Las Vegas. I'm good. I'm based in Las Vegas, Nevada. I've been in the casino industry for 30 years and have seen a lot of transformation from the first casinos in Nevada and New Jersey, American casino, and now sports betting and online casinos. So the topic of blockchain and cryptocurrency and cashless casino is very relevant, particularly now in the era of COVID. So it's nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Ed, you want to say hi?
Yeah, hi there. Yeah, my name's Ed Andrews. I'm CEO of Resorts Digital Gaming. So Resorts Casino was actually the first casino in Atlantic City, and actually the first licensed casino outside Nevada. I look after the digital business, but we work very closely with the online business, and as we'll find out, we're kind of, everybody's looking towards blockchain technology and Bitcoin and see how it can help the business. So kind of exciting times, and interested to hear what everybody's got to say.
Right. Matt, you want to introduce yourself? And also, I know you have some things to show with respect to a product you have.
Sure. So my name is Matthew Dickson. I'm the CEO and founder of a company named BitBoss out of Denver, Colorado. We are a blockchain-based real money gaming platform. Would you like me to go into the quick presentation?
Sure. Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to do a quick presentation here, talk a little bit about what we do. So we've developed a cashless wallet product for land-based casinos, inexpensive hardware device that we insert into slot machines. It speaks SAS protocol, which is the proprietary protocol of slot machines, allows us to route cryptocurrency or credits on and off slot machines without interfering with any of the functionality of a slot machine. We think there's a few key benefits to this technology. One of the biggest benefits, obviously, is that when you move your crediting onto blockchains, you can do true peer-to-peer transactions and eliminate the need for money transmitters. We think this is a key differentiator between blockchain technology and traditional client-server architecture. And then finally, since we run on a blockchain, we can seamlessly transition play to online. We think that the convergence of land-based and online play with cryptocurrency is going to be a huge benefit to operators. There's really no servers to run on the backside. We do everything on chain, so a customer can go to the slot machine, they can make deposits, make withdrawals into their wallet, and then play those credits seamlessly online on the blockchain. So.
And you've designed your own mobile wallet for the players to use, is that right?
Yes, we have. Yep.
Okay. So Ed, it's your first time seeing and hearing about this. I'm curious what your reaction is, how that might be useful in a casino.
Yeah, I mean it's it's very interesting times. I mean, I think for the casinos at the moment, I think a Bitcoin and blockchain technology has got to be adopted more prevalently. So I think it's still a fair way out, but I think there could be a lot of benefits, both in terms of the players and the regulators. Players like the anonymity of it, not having to carry cash around with you, to have it seamlessly cashed out. And the whole kind of transparency and tracking the transactions is very interesting. I know we're going to come on to it later, but just the whole loyalty. A big thing for us is giving a omni-channel experience for the resorts customer. I very much look after the digital world, but we really we want to give them a great experience across the whole resorts brand. So, when they're not coming to the property, they want them to be playing online with us. And we kind of think that could be a real differentiator, whoever gets that omni-channel experience right, both in terms of controlling your payments and in controlling your loyalty schemes. And from a regulatory point of view, I think for the regulators, there'll be a lot to get their heads around when the time comes, but I think there is so many benefits in terms of the transparency. We heard on the last panel how it can help with KYC and all those things. So my take at the moment is that it could be a very important thing to the industry, but really we're still a long way off in terms of the understanding how the technology is going to develop, still the cost of development and the cost of developers to do those things. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big proponent, but sort of further down the line.
Right. Steve, what's your impression of the type of system Matt has just described and shown, and do you think there's an appetite for it in casinos?
Look, I've known Matt almost as long as I've been in the industry. He's always been a leader and out front, and particularly in blockchain technology. What I would say is, what I would agree with Matt on is the convergence of casino, brick and mortar gaming, and iGaming. I just got back from Wisconsin. I've been in 6 states in the last 3 months. By next year, you'll have fully 20 states with some form of online gaming and sports wagering, in some cases online casino. And I think where you'll see BitBoss and companies like BitBoss gain some traction is in integrating blockchain wallets into the payment of transactions. And so I think it will come first in online and then work its way into brick and mortar casinos. I think to begin with, the technologies will be very simple and straightforward for the brick and mortar casino because regulators are let's say, not as open to maybe some of the new technology in the brick and mortar. But I think in terms of the explosion of iGaming is where we'll see some real opportunity.
So we live in the world of COVID-19 currently, and there have been calls by, for example, the American Gaming Association and the Nevada Gaming Commission for solutions to move casinos to a more cashless type system. Do you think COVID-19 actually will be a significant enough driver to push land casinos to adopt cashless systems? Matt, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, certainly everybody is nervous. Everybody's trying to come up with strategies to get people back into the casinos. And removing cash and anything that is a touch point is a major concern to people. So yeah, I mean, I think COVID is a driver of this. At the end of the day, I do think that this convergence of land-based and online is also another major factor that's going to drive adoption in a maybe even in a more significant way than COVID.
Right. Ed, you want to address that? Do you think COVID really is going to be a driver, or is it going to be more this need for online loyalty and completeness?
Do you know, I think, Jimmy, I think the casinos at the moment, the land-based casinos, have got a lot of immediate problems to address. So, how many people you can get on the floor, right, keeping the croupiers safe, keeping the staff safe, keeping the customers safe, with immediate things that have to happen in terms of getting the perspex up, how you deal with food and beverage in the casino. So it's been a very difficult time of adjustment. And I think, I think that at this stage, with everything going on, it's going to drive whole cashless payments and cryptocurrencies. I think is a long ask. I think what it will do when the dust settles, when we're all through this and everybody has got past the immediate operating problems, then there'll be a whole load of changes that people will kind of react to see what the outfall is. And I think this will be one of them, but I think it's not going to happen tomorrow. Right. We faced the same thing in the online industry with was this the time with the casinos shut that more states would start regulating and that would hurry along? Well, of course, there's lots of other things they're dealing with as a byproduct, but I think what does happen when the dust settles is everybody's looking to see how we can make changes for the next pandemic that's coming along. which we hope will be another 100 years.
We hope so. Steve, let's go back to your point about how you think a key driver for blockchain and digital currency adoption for the gaming industry will come from the iGaming world first, before then players move coins, for example, to use in land casinos. Can you tell me where you think that sort of breakpoint will happen? You know, what do you think is going to be necessary in terms of growth of iGaming in the United States and player adoption of digital currency to get to that point?
Yeah, I would echo what's been said. I visited about 30 casinos in the last 3 months. In the brick and mortar world, they're focused on very basic issues. How do they keep the casino clean? How do they create a perception or a reality of safety for the customers? How do they create social distance? How do they close down buffets and repurpose food and beverage? Very basic issues in the casino. But what we're seeing is a plethora of companies going public in the iGaming space. They're separating out the new technology, the new casino industry, the online casino industry into separate companies. And they're moving under different regulations at a different pace. So the ability to innovate and integrate solutions that companies like BitBoss and others are working on, I think is going to have a much more willing audience, a much more friendly regulatory environment in the iGaming world. You have companies like PayPal that are emerging. It used to be Bank of America was the standard in the gaming industry. Now it's PayPal, companies that have experimented and have led in some cases with blockchain technology. So I think that's where the impetus is going to come, and I think we're going to see some results sooner than later. States like New Jersey that have led in every other category, I think they're a prime candidate to lead in the area of blockchain integration of blockchain-based wallets and so forth.
Ed, let's talk about what you need as a business when it comes to blockchain technology. You're looking at this, you're exploring, you know, the potential capabilities of it. What are the functions that you'd want delivered to either your land or online product offerings that would make it worthwhile for your company to integrate blockchain capabilities?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, I think I don't think the casino gaming industry is going to be leaders in this. I think, you know, it just doesn't address, particularly in the regulated space. You know, payments is not one of our biggest issues. And I think it's going to have to be, the customer's going to have to be more used to using it when it comes to casinos and gaming. So I think that's almost the first thing that's got to happen. I think after that, there's lots of benefits, both to the customer and to ourselves as operators. And, you know, one thing we haven't touched upon so far is the cost. You know, payments, for my business, payments is over 6% of what we make on our gross gaming revenue, because people deposit, we pay, you know, let's say, sake of argument, somewhere between 2% and 3% for that. And then, but of course, you know, the deposits, there's withdrawals as well. So it's, and the way I believe it is that this could seriously reduce some of those payments costs. So I think that's going to be important. And then a lot of benefits follow up. This thing of transparency, both for customers and regulators comes on. You know, the speed that these transactions can be done. But I think, you know, I think it has to be widely adopted as a driving force. And I think, you know, there's still some concern with operators, wrongly or rightly, about the volatility of some of those cryptocurrencies. I mean, we have quite a volatile business anyway, because, you know, our customers do win as well as us winning. So to add in the volatility of actually the exchange rates probably kind of puts another challenge to the operating model.
Matt, how would you address some of the issues that Ed just raised, and how do you think Bitcoin SV and systems like yours can help solve them?
So I think one of the key technologies that's going to be rolling out in the very near future is stablecoins on BSV. And there's a lot of misunderstood or understood, if that's even a word, concepts right now with moving cryptocurrency. Once you have a stablecoin that can move extremely inexpensively on a blockchain that scales, a 6%, a couple percent on the way in and a couple percent on the way out of an online platform vaporizes.
Yeah.
And it's almost like charging somebody to go into a supermarket. You wouldn't think about doing it, or charging somebody to go into, a mall to buy product. Online operators are basically having to charge to get money into these accounts. When you move the account balance to a blockchain as opposed to a back-end server, and the player is holding his own funds, you don't have that expense, and you don't have the expense on the way out. And I think it's a game changer. I think as a blockchain community, we have a big job ahead of us to explain this. We have a job ahead of us to explain to the regulators. But if we do it in a compliant way with a lot of KYC and AML behind the scenes, and we can show regulators that this is a system that's actually better and more compliant, I think there will be adoption to this. And I think, to Steve's point, it probably starts online, because that's a big pain point. But there's also a lot of friction inside the casino as well. ATM fees are very high, and cage fees are very high. And there's an opportunity there to reduce costs and friction as well, and really give people what they're used to now. Younger players who we all want to attract into our online platforms and our land-based platforms, they're used to Venmo. They're used to not even so much PayPal anymore, but Venmo, right?
Right.
And when we can give them Venmo-like functionality in our branded casino app, and they can then take those credits outside the casino and use them for online play, or use them just to share a bill with their friends, I think that's when we're going to have real utility that drives adoption, almost forces player adoption.
Now, what about Ed's point he made earlier about wanting solutions that contain or gather the whole experience of a player in and out of a casino online? How would Bitcoin SV or Bitcoin SV-based tokens for a casino brand address that?
So I think Ed's really referring to what we call the omni-channel in gaming. It just means that you have one platform that does everything for you. When you put everything on chain and the player's balance is held on chain, and you can see those credits move seamlessly to land-based, to online, to wherever it may be, and then the regulators have a great view into what's happening, and the operators have a great view into what's happening. It's really what people have been searching for in gaming for 20 years.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Steve. Steve, let's talk about customer loyalty and data, because that's always, a very, a powerful driver of business choices. How do you think blockchain technology can be used in both the iGaming and land gaming space to really improve the business's ability to engage with customers and data?
Yeah, excellent question. One of the areas where there's been a lot of innovation in the last 10, 15 years with brick and mortar casinos has been the use of more and more sophisticated loyalty programs. It may seem simple when you swipe your card and you figure out what you've gotten for the day in terms of free points or free spins or free buffet, but that simple notion of tracking the entire activity of a player and rewarding them on a real-time basis is where the brick and mortar casino industry is at. To the point that was made, as we move into iGaming, we're bringing the next generation into the ecosystem of gaming. This is valuable in order to perpetuate the industry. And I think more and more we're going to be looking at tracking microtransactions, tracking different ways that they want to engage with the content. Venmo was used as an example, and this is how they like to share things amongst friends. We talk about peer-to-peer experiences. So I guess iGaming is, and what COVID has done is just accelerate the trend towards iGaming. And what that will do is accelerate the trend of bringing the next generation into the casino industry. And issues of loyalty, what we have learned is loyalty and tracking data is as important to the next generation as it is to the current generation. So I think the use of blockchain technologies, whether it's to facilitate payment or it's to facilitate the collection of data and microtransactions, all of this is going to accelerate as a result of our current trends.
Ed, do you want to address that? I know loyalty and customer tracking, right, is definitely important to your business.
Yeah, I mean, I would absolutely agree with what Stephen has to say, and getting the new generation through, and you know, there's every indication that they're just as interested in loyalty, if not more so. The thing I'd add is, I mean, it also helps us as operators look at how they're using that loyalty, and really which offers are cost effectively getting to our customers. I mean, we want to, we want to make sure we're not giving away money without actually increasing the loyalty. I mean, that doesn't do us any good, and that's always a big challenge for my business with the retention team, is seeing, and I know even more so where it's harder in retail casino world. So actually having that data and seeing how they've used the loyalties and seeing all those micro transactions with the loyalty and what games they're playing and what's really resonated, could be a huge help for us. But I would completely agree with Stephen that there's, loyalty is if anything for the next generation is going to become even more important.
Would your business be exploring, for example, tokenizing reward or loyalty points, on a blockchain using a blockchain
I think absolutely we would. Are we at the moment? I've got to say we're at the sort of on the first base, but we need people like Matt to help us with this and get those products out there. And I think we've kind of touched upon the regulation, and I think Stephen quite rightly said New Jersey has always been an earlier adopter, and actually I did have a quick conversation with the DGE before coming here and saying, have you looked at any blockchain? And they really need the operators to push that forward. So they've always been very, they've always been very forward thinking. If we've come with something new, to have a look at it. I think there's a lot of things to look at when they come to regulating it. But I think we as operators have got to get on the front foot, tell them what we want, and then take it to them to regulate.
Both Steve and Ed have mentioned microtransactions. I think as we've discussed at this conference, Bitcoin SV is so fully scaled, it can power, very, very small levels of microtransactions, which is a good thing. And a recent update to the Bitcoin SV node software is opening the door to, as Steve shatters, called nano services. Matt, can you tell us how your systems can use microtransactions? And in particular, I think you gave me an example about being able to pay content creators some percentage of house advantage.
Sure.
If you could deliver very efficiently nano transactions.
Yeah, it's actually we feel it's a key differentiator for our online platform. You take a game like Baccarat, for instance, has a 1% house advantage. If you accept a $1 bet as a house, you can expect to make a penny, which is a small amount. And in the online world, you have this whole litany of people that need to get paid. There's a lot of accounting that has to happen. On a blockchain, you can do it in real time. So if you take that one penny house advantage and you assume that maybe the person that actually created your Baccarat game for you, the skin of the game, is entitled to 10% of that, you're talking about 1/10 of a penny.
Right.
And what we were running into is that the content creator would end up with thousands of these small transactions.
Right.
And then when they went to consolidate those transactions together to cash out, to maybe convert to fiat to pay their employees or what have you, there were so many UTXOs that it would cost them 13, 14, 15% to get that transaction process on the chain. And with the new upgrade, all those UTXOs, you can just send them to the miner, they combine them together for you, and process your transaction as if it was 1 or 2 UTXOs. So for us, now we could even contemplate going into a place like Africa and allowing a 10-cent bet with a house advantage of 1/100th of a penny or whatever it is, right? So a lot of things start to become possible, And certainly your accounting gets a lot less expensive to run. No wires, no bank transfers, no stamps, no envelopes, whatever. All happening in real time, on the chain, 100% visible to all the parties.
Steve, what do you think about that? You know, Bitcoin SV is opening this door, we believe, to nano transaction levels because of the efficiency of the chain and how fees and mining is dealt with. What do you think could be done with that level of micro nano transaction capability for gaming?
Look, I think Matt gave a good example in terms of emerging gaming markets like Africa, and I think that's a great example. But to pick up on a point that Ed made earlier, even in America, where we're seeing the explosion of online gaming, you have state-by-state regulation. You have huge market access fees that have to be paid to get into business. You have huge transaction costs, marketing costs that have to be paid to attract customers and keep them on your platform. And then you have to live with the margins that exist for online casino and for sports betting, which is a risky pursuit. So anything that can be done to economize that process, to create efficiencies, I think operators will press that technology with regulators that want to listen, because this, at the end of the day, is a margin game. In the beginning, it's a land grab, and companies are spending shareholder money. They're throwing it around to get their share of the real estate. But eventually, people like Ed will have to deliver operating results. People like Betfred, who I'm assisting throughout the U.S., have to deliver operating results. And so the use of blockchain technology, the use of the types of things that BitBoss is working on are going to be essential in order to create profitable businesses and to address the new demographic, the growth of the industry.
Ed, you mentioned talking to the regulator today, right? Do you think state regulators, gaming commissions in the United States or frankly in any other country, fully understand the value of moving transactions to a public ledger to make reporting easier to them and for audit purposes?
I can only give my experience with the DG, and I think they certainly would. So there's a few things that are sacrosanct when you're operating as an operator in New Jersey with the regulations. One of them is underage gaming, completely sacrosanct, and KYC. And the other one is reporting and the accuracy of reporting. And that is, for all the operators coming in, that is one of the key challenges, or one of the platform providers. And the way I understand it is a lot of that stuff could be made totally transparent. We wouldn't even have to go through the whole rigmarole of providing reports, making it, even if there's pennies out, we have to go back and go through where it's been. Is it a timing issue? Did that get accounted on the wrong day for? And the way I understand it is that takes everything away. So we could even give them access to the system so they could do it all themselves. So I think that is going to be, that could potentially be a key benefit for regulators and a key benefit for operators, because I have 2 or 3 people every day trying to sort out those problems. So I absolutely do think that, and I absolutely think they would understand the benefits of it.
Yeah. Matt, the need to comply, for example, with KYC and AML requirements has been mentioned a few times. How does your system provide solutions for that?
Yeah, so we feel very strongly that our platform is compliant all over the world. Blockchain does make KYC easier, we believe, because you can KYC the wallet, and if the wallet is where every gaming transaction is emanating from, you have a complete audit trail right back to the player. So, we really think that blockchain technology on the regulatory side has so many benefits. I really do see a day where taxation is paid instantly. I think that's in the future, we're going to look back and say, well, this was a no-brainer.
We don't get too much leeway now, by the way.
No, but we're talking. As stable coins come to blockchains and people feel more comfortable using them. So
let's talk, Steve, about problem gambling. Sometimes people will say to me, well, if you move to digital currency or blockchain-based gaming, it's harder to manage problem gamblers, which operators have responsibility to do. Have you heard about solutions that are possible out there with blockchain, for example, such as setting limits on gambling activity or bet volume after a certain period of time?
Well, what I would say is if you look at the UK example, because they didn't self-regulate, because they didn't innovate of their own, proactivity, you have over-regulation in the area of problem gambling, some would say. So what I would say is if we can use these tools, if we can have companies like BitBoss innovate and help operators be proactive in dealing with problem gambling, then that would ensure a more reasonable regulatory approach in the future. It is an issue, but it's an issue best addressed by operators being proactive. I know I do a lot of work with Native American casinos. They're way out ahead of most commercial casinos in their desire to make sure that they're protecting against problem gambling. They just need the tools. So I think that's a great use case for the technology.
Matt, do you have any practical suggestions about how blockchain technology can be useful to manage problem gaming?
I mean, I think what it really gives a regulator is full transparency. And I think there's a lot of technologies that are on the horizon that are going to make this much simpler. AI obviously is going to really help. When you take every transaction and you put it on a public ledger, and what you're going to find is new companies are going to say, all this data that used to be behind a firewall that I could never see is now publicly available to me. Can I analyze this data? Can I present it in the right format? And then can I sell my results to people? And I think you will see an explosion in companies that are helping regulators monitor problem gaming, because the data will be there for them to analyze.
Yeah. There's already in the blockchain industry a growing collection of companies that provide blockchain analytics, rating services, for example, about the verifiability of companies, individuals, based on blockchain activity. And so I foresee definitely a new category of businesses that are service providers, providing tracking, monitoring tools for audit reporting, government agency reporting, problem gambling monitoring. So that's a whole ecosystem of industry to build for those of you great entrepreneurs out there. Steve mentioned tribal casinos. I actually wanted to talk about that. Do we all think tribal casinos are going to be earlier in the adoption of blockchain technology than the commercial casinos?
Yeah, what I would say is right now, tribal casinos, from the big ones to the smaller ones to the medium-sized ones, they're just struggling to figure out how to operate in the current environment. So I don't know that, I think traditionally tribes have been leaders in this, but I think at this point their focus is on immediate operational concerns as opposed to innovation. I would say that's their number one focus right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's going to be driven by which states or which jurisdictions regulate this first, or I don't know if it's necessarily easier for an Indian tribe to get their head around this compared to a state like Nevada or New Jersey. I think when there are innovative products that these casinos see the benefit of, whoever really sees the benefit first is going to push the adoption of this. And it may come from a large Indian casino. It may come from a large operator in Nevada. It's hard to say.
Ed, an audience question which I'll direct to you, which is all the panelists have cited regulations or regulatory compliance as critical in the adoption of blockchain in gaming. Have any of you made efforts to educate regulators about blockchain and shown them that the industry is trying to address any regulator concerns?
So I'll be totally honest with you, I haven't personally. Yeah. And speaking to the DGE, no operator has come to them with it. And I alluded it to earlier. I think, I think we should. Is it the most pressing concern on my list? Probably not at the moment, but I kind of, learned a lot through the experience and coming on, and I think it should be. I mean, I would go back to the point. I think it's unrealistic until it's more widely used for, buying goods online or going into supermarkets. I don't think it's the casino industry is going to drive it, but I think there's lots of benefits going forward, and it will come. And yes, I mean, it could be a real advantage both to regulators and operators to be first with it. But the sentiment is well taken. It should be operators going to it with the regulators, and then the regulators, have a look at it and do it in that order, as it were.
One other topic I wanted to address is something we believe in very much in the Bitcoin SV ecosystem, is the use of a massively scaled blockchain and ledger to connect onto one platform all of the different participants in an industry's value chain. So for example, in the gaming industry, you've got obviously the operators, casino, management, auditors, regulators, distributors of games, developers, infrastructure providers, who all are taking pieces of money or involved in transactions across a value chain. Do we foresee a future where one massively scalable chain could support solutions for all of them so that everyone really is more connected in a way with fewer data silos? Steve is nodding his head, so I'll go to him.
Seeing that in a microcosm in the gaming industry where they've moved towards kind of having an open source technology. It used to be the biggest issue in the gaming industry was you'd have all these great solutions, but you couldn't integrate them into the platforms that casinos were using. And now some of the big suppliers have gone to an open source, almost like an app store approach, where it's easier to integrate innovation. And if you take that to a broader point that you were making, which is having one uniform system that that people would recognize as such, I think that's certainly aspirational. It's something we're trying to achieve even in our industry. Just to kind of double back on your point about speaking to regulators, I did have a chance about 2 years ago. We were working on a peer-to-peer esports platform with Caesars, with the World Series of Poker, and Nevada asked to look at blockchain being used for peer-to-peer esports wagering. And so that was the first time I ever got in front of the Nevada regulators, and with Caesars' help. This is a good example of where you can get this, and maybe that's an area where we could start with blockchain in the casino industry, because Native American casinos want to be leaders in bringing esports technology into the casino. Anyway, that's the previous question, but in terms of what you're suggesting, I think that's aspirational and something that has real benefits.
Matt, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I do. We're really fortunate in gaming. All we do is move money around. We don't have trucking. We just send money and collect money. And because of that, blockchains are a natural fit for gaming and splitting transactions into smaller pieces and paying your digital marketing people and your affiliates and your content creators and your taxation. And when you can do that all in one simple transaction for no additional cost, you start to wring out these inefficiencies, and we do have a lot of them in the gaming business right now. And when people start to realize that we have to get away from this concept that cryptocurrency is bad, and we have to start getting to this place where we realize cryptocurrency is good and it's efficient. That's what we're about. We're capitalists, right? Efficiencies. And by allowing people to hold their balances in their own wallets and move that balance wherever they want it to go, all of a sudden we're going to start to give our players much better options. We have this concept, we want to lock people inside our casino. We want to lock them inside our online properties. And it makes sense from a business standpoint until you realize that there's so much more money to be had when you work together and you give them a much better product. And blockchain is going to allow much better products for our players.
Do you have a reaction to this aspirational
yeah, no,
vision?
I mean, I agree with both what, both what Matt and Stephen say. I mean, it is our in the online gaming space. I mean, it's absolutely made for it because so much of it is a business model, which is, you pay X% for your platform, you pay X% to the content providers who come in the game, you pay X% to your affiliates for doing the marketing. So it's it's sort of made for it where if that all happens automatically, it takes a lot of headaches away. So I would kind of, completely endorse what they say without knowing quite how the technology will be implemented or what that experience would look like. I mean, it kind of makes total sense and kind of, very exciting for the industry to be quite frank.
Leave that to the Matt Dicksons of the world to build and figure out.
Exactly.
I want to end on one point which was just raised, which is the possibility of leadership of esports into land casinos. Do we think that we'll see a day soon where esports wagering is happening more in land casinos?
Absolutely. This is an initiative I've worked on for the last 5, 6, 7 years. We've had small strides. I think COVID hurt the movement because we were starting to gain momentum to bring more and more programming into the casinos. But clearly, Native American casinos see it as a future content for their emerging customer base. We see esports wagering picked up during COVID, and a lot of that interest has remained, even as sports have come back online. So I think everything from events, tournaments, peer-to-peer, wagering on esports, microtransactions, all of which are really a great use case for the technology that companies like BitBoss are building. I think this is the future. This is part of the future, along with sports wagering, along with igaming.
Ed, do you think esports wagering and other events and activities within land casinos could be actually maybe a stronger driver of digital currency and blockchain adoption for land casinos?
Yeah, I mean, I think possibly. I mean, actually, betting on esports events, I mean, it kind of happens at the moment. It's just like it's like betting on a football game or whatever it happens to be. I think it's an interesting one of creating the ecosystem where we can all go online and challenge each other to play certain games. I think there's a lot of complexity to that because so much can be driven by technology or what bandwidth or what equipment you've got at home. So to level the playing field is going to be key to that. And maybe it is casinos, and not necessarily casinos, but other leisure venues where everybody goes and plays on a level playing field, and they're challenging each other the whole time, which again would be perfect for the technology.
Matt, we'll end with this last question to you. What are the best ways you think Bitcoin SV is going to be able to power or transform the future of gaming?
I mean, I would say that we're huge believers in BSV. We've been at this a long time. And it was really the first chain that scaled efficiently for us at cost. It has so many other benefits that are, I don't want to go into them, they're kind of technical. But at its heart, it does what we need it to do. When you talk to these two gentlemen, you have to understand how many hundreds of thousands or millions of players come through their property, and how many financial transactions happen, and how many wagers happen, whether it's on Betfred or in a land-based casino in Atlantic City. There's massive, massive volume, and people don't quite understand it. And BSV could power all their platforms very easily today. Forget about any improvements that are made in the future. So we're huge believers in Bitcoin SV. We think it's a great blockchain to develop on, and we'd encourage anybody else to try it too.
Well, on that note, I will thank all of our panelists for participating in this very enlightening conversation about a future world for the gaming industry, both land and in the iGaming world. So thank you, Ed, thank you, Steve, and thank you, Matt. And we are very fortunate to have you all today.